Dallas, unbelievably.
Is this
We're
liveness?
We're live.
I feel some liveness.
This is what it's like to be live. I think we have 13 wonderful people hanging out.
I know.
They've already given us 5 thumbs up.
Well, Ruckworth said, how many middle fingers did we get?
I don't know. They should have that. They should have the thumbs up, the thumbs down, and the bird, right?
Right. Ruckworth says, is this thing on? Well, it is now.
Not another tornado. No problem.
Not that I know of. It's supposed to sprinkle here in the next
Harry,
hour.
Australia, good day. I rolled up my window in anticipation of that.
Did you really?
Yeah. It shows you the kind of, like vision that I have.
Foresight.
Foresight. That's what I was looking for. Foresight.
I got the strangest phone call today from a guy who's looking for history on an AHRA drag car.
Okay.
It was called the Bone Shaker, and it looks like this creepy, like Munstermobile meets Top Fuel dragster.
Yeah, it rings a bell.
It was a model in like 63, 4, 5, 6.
It rings a bell. So I saw Fubar, the axe, has entered the room. Ari is here. Our mods are coming in. I feel secure already. You know what I'm saying? I was a little shaky. I was a little, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But now these guys are here, and I'm like, it's all good. So come at me. Come at me, bro. You know what I'm saying? Come at me.
Preston Maroney says, Shelbyville, Tennessee here. Man, you don't
What's happening, Preston?
You should be the live audience. We need a laugh track.
We'll be here for 2 hours. Come up, sit in the chair right over here and be part of the audience.
Ruckworth says, was it green with skeleton bones? I'm not entirely sure. He was just looking for history on it. He believes he has the car, the real car.
We should do it. We should do this with a live audience.
It'd be kind of cool. At least
and a laugh track.
And just like have it laugh at like erroneous times.
We need a laugh track. Don English, what's happening? Terrence Seymour, Dean Stevenson, Jason Fitch, Joe K, Rider Up Pale Horse. What's going on, man?
I haven't seen that guy in a while. I don't know.
Zach's Mopars and mashed potatoes. Dakota. Look, George Bonnie. We're all in here.
All the heavy hitters, plus even Wendy English is in here. Don and Wendy.
Wendy's everywhere all the time.
Oh, really?
Everywhere, all the time. I don't know how she does.
She's like an entity.
Yeah, she's omnipotent. Omnipresent.
Maybe.
I can't even think of the word.
Omnivore.
She's probably an omnivore. Able to UT, will you talk about how to change your oil in a Johnny Depp voice? I wouldn't know Johnny Depp. Like, I know he was in
The Pirates.
Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, right? Yeah.
I know that movie. But
he didn't have any lines in that movie. Yeah.
It's the only thing I know.
Maybe that's the Johnny Depp you should choose and put scissors on your hands and show him how to change oil with scissors on your hands.
Tony Scissorhands. That goes vice grip hands. Oh, God. Let's see. DRC Racing Garage, Parish, Florida, checking in. Yeah, he's got a bunch of Mopars, an AR Cuda, TA Challenger, 70 Belvedere, 67 Belvedere, 72 Duster. Nice assortment, my brother. Lucas Crockett. Say you have a junkyard motor, you're refreshing and everything looks great. Crank has no blemishes or anything. Do you tend to polish it up before? If so, by hand or have a machine shop do it? If the crank has no blemishes,
don't even polish.
Right.
Why clean it off real good and put it back in.
Get some Scotch-Brite, right? Just regular Scotch-Brite and some like WD-40 or PB Blaster or any light oil like that, and just go around it because there's always tarnish on them and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't worry about it.
You know what? And I'm kind of wondering if that tarnish, you might be able to just hit that crank with some oven cleaner, and it might just knock that tarnish straight off.
I guess I never thought of doing that.
Me neither. But somebody was talking about it the other day, saying it takes off that varnishy brown stuff like real simply.
Somebody just asked about the 3.7 V6. I had a Sebring convertible a few years back that had the 3.7 in it. No, it was 2.7. 2.7. Sorry, wrong car, wrong engine. I don't know the 3.7. So what is going on with the no names?
Well, right now we're just trying to figure out. A lot of it is we picked up a sponsor. Which I don't know if you saw that.
Yes, well, you should tell people.
Right. We got a sponsor for the No Name 500, which is all of the essentially, if you start a YouTube channel right now and you entered the No Name Nationals, you literally would be in the No Name 500, right? So that it's for everybody that has a YouTube channel that has less than 500 subscribers and they're shooting for 500 by the time the event happens. So Buzz from Roadkill Customs literally swooped in and picked up a sponsorship for that. The next big thing that we have going on, we're trying to get the announcer lineup done. And it's been kind of a back and forth pain in the butt thing. More or less just because schedules and who and when and why. But I know you had shown some interest in doing it as well, hadn't you?
Yeah, I'll do it.
You'll do it?
Sure. I told you, no problem.
Yeah. I didn't know if you were guaranteed going to do that or not.
Yeah, why wouldn't I?
Oh, I don't know. Generally, when you say you're going to do something, that means you're going to do it.
I generally do it. I mean, I don't always do it on time. And I don't always do it in the order in which I say that I'm going to do it. But goddamn it, it will get done.
Well, we were trying to get quite a few guys so that we could alternate because it's a 2-day thing, right?
Right.
And you totally get burned out on being up there for 12 hours a day, right?
You do realize what I do for a living, right?
You quite possibly could be on.
It would be like a vacation sitting there.
Without a camera.
Yeah,
right?
with no camera. Yeah, it would be like a freaking vacation to just sit there and talk about stuff going down the track. That's
yeah. And of course, Ron Ward's already said he's going to do it, right?
I know Ron's an old friend of mine, but I would definitely do it with Ron.
Oh, I think he would be good.
Yeah.
And then we've had some other people show interest, but I'm not going to announce them or anything until we actually get something agreed with them, right? So.
Okay, John Wilburn saying Dallas will get it set, then tell everyone.
Yeah, well, and that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm already talking about the things that that I know are already kind of worked out. So,
but yeah, I got no problem. I'll announce the thing.
Okay.
I mean, I've only got one race,
one and done, right?
Right, and so somebody can handle that. While
and did you see the new number you got to shoot for now? He's got 708 horse now.
Yeah. It's all good.
Okay.
I ain't worried about it.
I finally just saw the video, and it was like, I guess the dyno operator went in there and removed some more RTV material and pulled 10 more horse out of it.
So I heard.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, John and I are going to go out to Jeffers on the 29th of April, and they have an event on the 30th. So he's come over to my place on the 29th. We're going to shoot live from there and talk about updates. And on the 30th, we're going to go over to Jeffers and measure everything out, figure out where we're going to plot everything. So,
let's see. Dakota, what's your plan? I mean, to grow old the rest of the way almost gracefully. I mean,
Abel D says, Uncle Tony in Dallas, what are your thoughts on those glass fuel filters? Think they're better than the paper fuel filters?
I like them.
I like you can see in them.
Yeah.
Right? Like that you can see literally if it's plugged, if it's flowing.
Well, there's lots of clear filters. I like the fact that you can take them apart and
clean them and reuse them.
Right.
Yeah.
People are all paranoid. Oh, you got glass under the hood. It's going to explode. Or whatever the fuck it is that they say. I've been using those things for years. I've never had a problem. And it's not like they're made out of like light bulb glass. I mean, they're made out of like, you know what I mean? It's a fairly substantial piece of glass. I think as long as you don't have it like rattling between two rocks, for any extended period of time, it should be just.
Well, I mean, your windshield is on your car and it's got shit hitting it all the time.
Right, exactly. Your windshield is a lot more vulnerable than the freaking gas filter. Led Zeppelin Werewolf Gold, more fun to grow old disgracefully. Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. Mike Batista, I've never seen a broken glass gas filter. I know. But every time I have them on some of my cars and some of them I don't. And anytime one of those gas filters shows up in a video, there's like always people in the comments. It's gonna explode, blow up an orphanage, and people. So it's like.
Poor orphan kids are going to die because you have a glass fuel filter. How dare you?
Chris Freemasson VGG says those glass filters leak. They do if you don't tighten them. You got to tighten them down. They have a little rubber gasket in there, and you got to tighten them down. And then, once it's clamped in place, they can't unscrew themselves.
Why does somebody keep saying square body gasser with a tilt front clip?
I don't know.
I don't know either. All right, Slant Daily Garage. Dallas, I'll have to drive up and meet you with your trans. Oh, that's Polito. That's Shane Polito. Oh man.
Which
well,
one?
Yeah, you're more than welcome to come by and check out my place that's filled to the gills with Buick stuff, getting ready for the Nationals. Yeah, he's got my switch pitch. I didn't feel comfortable rebuilding the switch pitch because it's completely different than like a regular Turbo 400. And there's no book I could find on just rebuilding the switch pitch. I mean, the clutches and everything are the same. It's the valve body that's different. It's the input shaft, the pump is all different, and it's not in any books.
There's got to be somebody who's familiar with those things.
There is. I got. As a matter of fact, it was a sponsor for the AHRA last year. Doug Herzog from Herzog Motorsports up. He's just outside St. Louis, and he's familiar with them. He said that's the best damn towing training I ever had because it's got 2 torque converter settings, right? So you got 1200 stall or 2200 stall.
Kathy says she was just on her way to Publix and she accidentally blew up the orphanage, changed that filter. See, that's what happens. I tried to kill my old lady with a glass filter, and instead I took out an orphanage.
How dare you?
Unbelievable.
See, Don must be a sailor. The smoking lamp is lit now, or is now lit.
It's always lit.
Well, I don't think it's ever been out.
How come you're not smoking?
No, I've been trying to cut back big time. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, cut back to the point of like not doing it.
Dude, you're nuts.
Yeah. Well, I just can't get past this. I still feel like I got some kind of respiratory thing.
Tyson King, Tony, I hope you're well. I am well. Thank you, Tyson. I hope you're well as well. You talked about getting a hotter coil and wider gaps in a perfect daily driver series. Do you know if that would help my mileage in a B200 360? Only if you plan on leaning the carburetor. Right, so what'll happen is if you put smaller jets, if you recalibrate the carburetor to be leaner, you need to increase the gap to maintain consistent spark. And at that point, that's when you need a hotter coil. So the just changing the coil, just putting a hotter coil in there is not going to do you any good at all unless you're actually leaning things out.
And I know, like on GM with HEI, you can actually open that gap pretty far on electronic ignition. I don't know about the Mopars.
Some of them were 60,000.
Yeah, the Buicks were 55,000.
55?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it just had to do with cylinder pressure, right? How much cylinder pressure the engine had.
And how lean they made it.
Well, and see, you remember that HEIs came on Buicks in 74. They were the first ones to get them, right? And when you read the books, that's where it was talking about 45, 50, 55,000. And then you look at a Chevrolet, it's like 35,000, right? And you're like, why? But the only thing I can figure out is because the Chevrolet has those short rods, which allows it has the piston speed is much higher, right? Going to top dead center. And it cruises quickly.
You're talking about from 1974?
74 was the first ones to have the Buicks were the first ones to have the HEI. And then 75, everybody got them.
Right. So if you look at the 74 spec for the Chevy, it's still going to be points.
No. I'm not looking at the points for Chevy. What I'm getting at is like if you look at 75 and later,
right,
their gap was not much different than the points, right? But when you look at Pontiac, the Buick was the ones that I noticed big gaps. But there's some of them that were 60,000s, like you said, like Cadillacs.
Yeah.
Cadillac, I think, had a big gap, and I don't know why. Was it Papillon Cycles? Hey, guys, hesitation on hot start. I have a small block Chevrolet, 600 CFM Edelbrock. Wonder why when I start it hot, it sometimes seems to hesitate before firing. Is it slow rolling?
Well, okay, if it's hot, right, what's happening is you're getting some gasoline is boiling over and dripping down while the motor is so when you shut the engine, right, the underhood temperature raises, especially the temperature around the carburetor, because the fan, even though the job of the fan is to pull air through the radiator, it's also circulating air under the hood. So when you shut it off, the air stops circulating, the temperature rises because coolant isn't circulating in the engine, and at that point, some of the gas will boil up.
Yeah. Sometimes you can hear it.
Yeah,
you can sometimes hear it in the bowl.
Yeah. So it'll boil up, not enough to like go spewing out of the vents, right? But enough to drip through the boosters. So after about 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes or so, that motor is going to be fairly wet. Try next time you start it, right? Next time you get with that hot start situation, hold it halfway to 3/4 of the floor when you go to crank it. Don't pump it. Just straight down and then crank it, and it should go in about 4 or 5 revolutions. It should light off.
I've also noticed that small block Chevrolets are like very similar to the Buicks, where they have, well, they're exactly the same starter setup, right? But it's always, it gets heat soaked real easy on that one side. Have you ever noticed that, especially with headers?
Which one now?
Like small block Chevy, when you got headers on them, they heat soak that starter pretty easy over on the passenger side, and that causes them to slow roll when they first initially, when you hit the key, and they'll, and you're thinking, oh man, I got too much timing, and come to find out you don't. It's usually just the starter gets heat soaked.
Tyson is in there again about the hotter coil. Should I lean out the carb on a big, heavy 360 B200? My focus is on mileage rather than power. Yes, you could. I mean, I don't know what carburetor you have on there. If you've got an Edelbrock, experiment with thicker drop rods. Go with thicker drop rods, and that will lean the thing all together. So what you do is just keep putting bigger and bigger drop rods in there until you feel a noticeable, like, kind of weakness, a noticeable hesitation. Then start opening, or until you hear a miss, and then start opening your plug gaps.
I was trying to read this. Okay, Lil Mike says, I'm a Mopar guy, but I got a 454 big block, 4 BM. Need something to put it into.
What I want is a C10 pickup short wheelbase 1970 or over. Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. Pro tip, upgrade to high performance muffler bearings. Okay.
Says, hello from the UK, Tony. Will he be taking up Brian Cabral on his $2,000 challenge he announced a few Fridays on the evening? Do a 10-second quarter mile and get the money plus an apology. When the car goes, it'll go. If he wants to put up $2,000, that's fine. But he's got to come here.
Or Sykeston. We actually even got seating for the guy.
Let's see. Pontiacs get here. Mr. Will, Pontiacs get heat soaked with headers. Move the solenoid like a Ford, works fine.
Yeah.
But you still have a solenoid on the starter.
You do, normally.
Yeah. Let's see. Drinking some coffee. I need my fuel. You're not drinking coffee? Nothing, man. No caffeine, no nicotine.
No, I do tea twice a day.
Huh?
Yeah, well, that's to balance my blood sugar out.
Oh, that's right. All right, hit us with the tough questions. Let's see. Let him sit on a pine cone. Dallas or me?
Maybe Cabral.
Oh, Brian. Okay, yeah. Let's see.
Oh, okay. So Ari says, I had kind of a cool idea because the 3-speed Muncie is so tractor-like and non-sinker mesh. I want to adapt my aluminum T10 4-speed from a vet to my stove bolt pickup truck. Well, if you got a 3-speed in there, 3-speed Muncie, want that T10 bolt right up.
Yeah, I think the bolt pattern is the same. It's got that squarish or that rectangle bolt pattern.
Yeah, I think it's the GM standard bolt pattern for a manual.
I think the only difference is going to be the clutch spline.
Dakota's here saying 1969 moon landing footage, real or not?
I don't know. I'm not saying we didn't go there. I'm just saying I don't know if we did. Uh-oh. Uncle Tony's going, that's Kathy. Uncle Kathy, Ultra Kathy, Applesauce, Super Cub is asking, tough question, will the Swinger have functional AC this year? Yes, we'll have functional AC this year.
Texas crude versus Pennsylvania. Thoughts? These are the tough questions we were looking for tonight. Man.
Look, they're all going at me. Kim is saying, happy wife, happy life. Mr. Will, finally fixed Ultra Kathy's AC. Oh, look, they're all ganging up on me now. Fine. You'll get AC.
Oh, yeah, Inspector Business.
You're so pretty when you're sweaty, right? When you got the sweat roll and you're so beautiful. Why would I want to stop that?
So Inspector Business says I've been making the rounds and putting on the miles. I stopped by and saw the Bad Tree production guys on Saturday, and then I went down to Two Hacks Garage and dropped off some big AHRA signs and visited with those guys for a while. Steve Byko, what causes slow starting when motor is hot? Somebody said it could be heat from headers on the starter. Yes, generally that's heat soak.
Yeah.
On the solenoid. It's actually not the starter motor, but it's the solenoid.
Heat soak is a broad term. So heat soak could refer to an electrical issue like a starter problem where it gets hot after you shut it off. Heat soak could be a carburetor or a fuel pump vapor-like issue. Heat soak could be a leak, like for instance a water pump leak or a radiator cap leak that happens after you shut the car off. Heat soak is a broad term, just meaning that the car is not running anymore. You just shut it off. The coolant isn't circulating. The temperature goes up, and that's when the heat soaks into the whatever part that is being affected.
It becomes like a air-cooled engine fin, whatever part, right?
Right.
So it's trying to dissipate heat as best as it possibly can. But Chevrolets and the Buicks were always bad about it because it always gets tight on the GM on passenger side down low. I'm sure the Pontiacs, somebody said the Pontiac did the same thing, and it's probably because it's in the same place, just on the opposite side of the block.
FF, thank you for the super chat, FF. Good evening. Okay, Tony, what are you doing with the valve seats on older engines when you do your own valve and head work? Depends on the seats. It depends on the seats. If the exhaust is on the engines that I work with, there is never an issue with the intakes, ever. I mean, like literally never, ever an issue with the intakes. Sometimes you'll find a partially sunken exhaust. It just depends on how bad they are. If it's to the point that, the valve is significantly sunk, or in other words, I can run my finger over the top of the combustion chamber and not feel the raised part for the valve, then I'll either have seats in it or I'll kick that head and I'll get one that's got better seats.
Jesus Murillo says something here that I'm pretty sure I know what this is. Okay. I have a 302 Ford with carb. Can't seem to get it running right. Please help. 1985 F-150 from Mississippi.
Can't get the timing right.
Right, but think about it. It's 302 Ford.
85 was the year that they switched the firing orders.
Well, yeah, that would have been HO firing order on the HO motors. That would have 351 Windsor. All right, so you need to find out what firing order that motor has first, because the 302 could technically have two different firing orders in that same year engine, right?
A good firing order and an evil firing order.
That's it, yeah. So depending on how you want to drive, if you want to be evil about it, put the evil firing order in it. But no, really, it has two different firing orders. So find out what your firing order is first. The easiest thing to do is I take pieces of paper towel and I fill the spark plug holes, and then I'll rotate the motor over. And if you got it up on top dead center when you first do it, the next cylinder in the firing order should be the one that you're looking for, right? So it'll tell you exactly which firing order you got. But best of luck with that. I've seen so many people make mistakes with having the wrong firing order. Most of the time, it's not the HO firing order that you need. It's usually the standard 302 firing order, which I believe is the same as a 460.
Mr. Will's Dying Breed Garage. Is it true that race cars should be painted white or black? Some colors are bad luck. Green is the bad luck color.
I tell you what, if you have a race car and you're painting it, paint the roof white. There's nothing worse than sitting in a race car with the sun beating down on it and you're not moving, especially like a drag car in the staging lanes.
Right.
You got all your gear on, right? And it's hot and the sun's just beating down on the roof. If you paint it white, it'll probably drop it 10 degrees in that car.
Yeah, but the only bad luck color is green, and that came from like
English,
yeah, like Formula One. There was like a couple of
racing
fatalities and shit like that. And then here in this country, you had the John Mulligan incident.
Yeah, where the zookeeper.
So, yeah, and after that, you didn't see too many green cars. I think like
we had the Jade Grenade, right?
Yeah. The Jade Grenade, Gordy Bonnen's car. You could almost count
the Green Monster. Matter of fact, the Green Monster is one of them that had a big fatality deal, wasn't it?
No. That's the guy. The Green. He's right. He lost his legs. He drove. Yeah. He was a badass.
Uh-huh.
Right. Okay, Jonathan Couchy, thank you for the super chat. Magnum 8-liter V10 made 300 horsepower and 450 pounds of torque from the factory. I will be building it. Should I go with a built 47RE or use a two-wheel drive MP435 that I have? They detuned the V10 from factory because of the trans.
And that's because I don't know what that MP435 is. That a manual? It sounds like a new process 435.
Right.
That 47RE is weak. I think that's the one that everybody stays away from, right?
John, I know you paid for an answer there, but I can't give you an educated one. I know that somebody in here can though.
My own personal taste in my 3/4 ton Ford truck was Ford transmissions were like literally a wet noodle, E4OD, and so I switched it over to a ZF 5-speed, so I didn't have all those problems, and it's been treating me fair. So I mean, I put a clutch in it, and that's about all the extent I've done to it.
Well, Mike, I've enjoyed the channel and picked up tons of useful info. Thank you for watching, my brother.
Oh, here we go.
John Wilburn is saying the 47RE is tough. It's based on the 727, but I don't know any of the details. So
Raven Dave says it'll be fine if it's built right. And I don't know anything about especially Chrysler overdrives.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the 47RE. I know nothing about them. You know, I mean, just being straight up, I just don't know anything about them.
Okay, Los Cadavers says he milled a block of a 258 inline 6 down 80 thousandths, shaved a quarter inch off of the head. Flat top pistons and shorter rods, got the timing dialed in, have a Weber 6-to-1 kit for it, and open headers lined up. That sounds like it's going to be fun to drive.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. It's going to sound great.
Oh, he's saying, should I go with a T10 behind that or a T5? T5's limitation was torque, right?
Yeah, the T5. Now T5 I have personal experience with. I have blown up many T5s. Third gear is like made out of like
lettuce.
Yeah, right. 200. I used to get 200 runs with a 5-liter. I couldn't imagine that thing living for any amount of time behind a V10. So yeah, but there are upgraded versions of it, but the T5 itself now.
If you want that overdrive and the thing isn't making over, I want to see that it had a limit of like 320 foot-pounds of torque at T5.
I missed a super chat, I think. Well, pardon, thank you, sir. $10 for the Swinger AC fund to keep Ultra Kathy cool all summer. Well, it'll probably keep her cool for about half the summer. It is a 50-year-old system. Yeah, thank you, though. I appreciate it.
That's to buy Freon then.
Well, pardon's always so generous. Yeah, Super T10 iron case. But if you're putting it, honestly, if you're putting it behind a V10, why not use an 833 or an 833 overdrive?
Oh, yeah, 833 overdrive would be good, huh?
Sure. Let's see. Charles Manson, Tony, do you remember a push rod going through the rocker and bottle rocket? I certainly do. It just happened on my 318 with a flat top of cam. Think it's just metal fatigue from years of service and not bleeding lifter. Well, here's the thing. It could very well have been, but I also had bleeding lifters at the same time where you'd shut the car off, restart it, and there was a like there was nothing until like probably 2 or 3 seconds after the motor was running. Then they would start to quiet down. As soon as you shut it off and went to restart it, they would bleed down automatically. So I'm putting 2 and 2 together and saying that because the lifter is bleeding down and 1 or 2 of them might not be pumping up completely, that's punching away at the lifter, or at the rocker rather, and would cause that. But it could also very well have been metal fatigue because we are dealing with 50-year-old parts that have hundreds of thousands of miles on them. So
and then you throw some heavy-duty springs at it, right? So
it's got 340 springs. It just got regular 340 springs. Clayton, thank you for the super chat. With a 3200-ish stall converter, what kind of tranny cooler you don't really? Do I need for a light street strip car? Prefer not to run the cooler lines through the radiator. Is that okay? Yeah, minimal 3200 RPM converter. In a light car, you're probably not going to see very much. You go to the north side of like 3,500, 3,800, then things really start to get hot. A 3,200 RPM converter in a relatively light car, minimal tranny cooler, just minimal.
I've always been the one to err on the side of caution on that because I know I'm not going to leave the 3200 in it. Right? It's like I'm going more later.
Well, yeah.
And so if you're going to buy one, buy the biggest one you can find. I'll tell you a secret. They used to have big, huge heat exchangers on the bottom of like refrigerators. And you used to be able to pull those big refrigerator heat exchangers off there, and it'd be like enough for like 78,000 pounds for you to tow.
I should throw something in there though, because not all transmissions are the same. Now he's asking about a generic. He's putting a 3,200 RPM converter, and he's wondering about tranny cooler, but he's not saying what transmission.
All right.
Like for instance, if it was a 904, 904s don't get hot, right? On the other hand, something like a C6 it's an inferno. You can light a cigarette off of a C6. So so the correct answer to your question would really depend on what kind of transmission it is.
No, is Bad Tree Blake? Is his birthday?
Well, happy birthday! Yeah, I was prepared a birthday song for you actually.
I'll sing it at the end of the show. The end of the show. Yeah, probably the very. As the credits roll, I'll sing it.
What if something happens to him before the end of the show and he won't be able to hear it?
Well,
what if he has like a gas attack or he's abducted by reptilians?
He could be abducted by reptilians.
So he'll go on his birthday never hearing the special song that you prepared for.
I think he'll be okay. He can wait till the credits roll.
All right.
Ford automatics suck. No, C4 is good.
So let's see. Your turbo 350s, they're great.
I'm not a big fan of those. I don't know how many of them suckers I've tore up.
Really?
Yes. They were they work great till they don't. They're like the 4L60E or the 700R4 of the muscle car world. I never had one last very long. Turbo 400 though was always reliable as sunrise.
Joe K, thank you for the super chat, Joe. LS and HD Chevy truck could use better mile per gallon and more oomph. Exhaust manifolds rusty and leaking. Are shorty headers worth it or just do new stock manifolds? Shorty headers better than the stock manifolds. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big staunch manifold guy because I hate them on something I drive every day. I hate headers on that because you're always changing gaskets, right?
Well, it depends. You can put a copper gasket.
Well, I was just going to say that I did do copper gaskets in my Ford, and they've lasted 5 years now. And the funny thing is, I've had them out 20 times, and they always seal right back up as soon as you put them back in there.
Yeah, I got copper gaskets on my 68 at the house. But yeah, but that's not the question. The question is like shorty headers.
He wants more oomph, and I mean, if he's already got rusty and leaking exhaust manifolds, well, usually that's just a gasket. But
a proper long tube header, you will definitely see an advantage.
Well, and see, he's got a heavy duty Chevy truck, right? Well, he's obviously got the ground clearance for long tubes.
You got all the room in the world under there.
Exactly. Yeah, I would probably lean towards, man, let's look at some long tubes unless you have something that would limit you from doing that, right? Like if you're off-road all the time, when you're doing big rocks and stuff that can bash them headers up and smash them flat, then it might not be worth it. But if, and on the other side of that coin, it's going to do the same thing to your exhaust. So,
Joe Brennan, I don't think there's any difference between shorties and long tube headers. There is, but it's negligible. Let's see. What was that? Is that a new one?
No.
Okay. We did that already.
Right. That's the converter guy.
Okay.
Mopar Al's in the house, I guess.
Mopar Al. Where?
Well, it says hi, Al. Hi, Al.
Oh, I get it. Oh, Mopar Al. Right. All hail Mopar Al. The newest rising star in all of YouTube.
What? That's it. I'm going to have to star off against Al. I might actually have to make a video one of these days.
John, is your 66 Charger the one that backed into the wall? I never saw that in the opening credits of Fall Guy, damaged same side. Is it red? I don't know. Opening credits to Fall Guy. All right, now I got to see this. Here, you maintain that for a second.
All right. Well, Tyson King's asking. He says my 360, my B200 has the 2-barrel R7590, I think. Weird 4.185-inch air filter base. Is it worth upgrading to lean it out? Again, mileage, not power. It's a camp van. I'll tell you what I know, Tyson. I know that a 4-barrel carburetor, if you can keep your foot out of secondaries, will absolutely murder that 2-barrel on fuel economy, especially if it's like a thermoquad or a quadrojet on there, because the primaries are so small. They actually generally get much better mileage with a 4-barrel than a 2-barrel. I know that sounds contradicting, but that's just what I've seen in the past. Because generally your 2-barrels are 500 CFM, right?
Big explosion. Flying pickup truck.
Okay.
Do people actually watch this stuff?
Oh, I used to watch that when I was a kid.
Oh, Jesus.
Hey, that's Lee Majors.
That's the $6 million man.
It is. And in this movie, or in this show, he's $7 million. Los Cadaver. Uncle Tony and Dallas, as far as the 250, I do have a few torque command units, 727 and a 904. Would they stand up to a beefy 258? I think either one of them would easily, especially that 727.
You really watched this?
What, when I was like 7? Yes.
Okay, if you were 7, that's cool.
That shit was cool. I tried watching it with my son, and I'm like, this is a horrible show.
Holy Jesus. All right.
Okay.
No, I don't see any Charger backing into anything, so...
Oh. John Rounds is asking, does the AHRA have a Nitro Slingshot class? No, we do not at this point. So I've been literally kind of avoiding it for a few years because I don't want to try to play in the sandbox that everybody else is pissing and pooping in. My whole philosophy on the AHRA is literally we do things for the rest of us, right? So like the fun events that includes the 90% and not excludes the 90%. That's kind of what I've been focused on. And Nitro is a big thing. You go start racing the Nitro cars, yeah, you're gonna have them lined up at the gate, but I'm also have to be cutting heads with the NHRA, which pretty much has a.
It's not a really viable thing anymore. There aren't enough Nostalgia Top Fuel cars around active anymore. You know what I mean? To make it worthwhile. The few that are around, you have to pay big bucks to.
Fab Race Mod Repeat. AHRA formula is awesome. Formula stock? That's what I'm assuming he means. Or I'm not sure what you mean by that, Chris Cox.
Let's go. Charles Manson. Hey, Tony, why can't you find any drivers for your heap? Seems like a fun time. Well, when I say driver, I don't mean somebody to actually sit in the car necessarily. And I need somebody to actually come take the car, put it on their trailer, take it to an event, do whatever's got to be done, bring it back. That's what I mean by driver, right? So to actually sit in the car, I could train poop to sit in a car and point it down a track. That's not the issue. The issue is having somebody who actually wants to go out and run the car. So it's like, here, make like it's yours, put it on your trailer, get it to the track, do whatever you got to do, bring it back, right? And bring me video and tell me what it did wrong so I can fix it. That's what I'm looking for. So when I say I'm looking for a driver, I don't mean just, I need somebody to actually take the reins with it.
Okay, so Tyson King saying he can't put a 4-barrel on his B200 van. He doesn't want to do the carbon intake. Is there a better 2-barrel he could put on there for mileage? Man, what was the one everybody used? Your BBD? Is that what?
The BBD, yeah,
that's 2-barrel.
Yeah, but it was not going to bolt onto his intake manifold with 360. It has the bigger footprint, like for the Holly 2-barrel, the square Holly, not the 2300 series. You can get an adapter and put a BBD on there. Excuse me, if you could find an early 318, 273 318 BBD, and an adapter to go and who makes the adapter for that? I actually have one of those adapters.
Maybe Transdapt?
Might be Transdapt. Oh God, I can't think of who it is. I definitely have one, so I know it exists. But it'll go from the smaller Stromberg BBD footprint to the large or Holly rectangular footprint?
Where did that question go?
Okay.
Where did that question go? All right.
What are you doing?
I don't know what I'm doing.
What are you doing?
How dare I?
Okay. Oh, Andy's in the house. Unity. Oh man, I was gonna message you back, right? A little bit of silicone, right? I know, stupid stuff like that. But that's always. It's always.
Well, what's funny is like I just watched that video yesterday, and the guy he was shining the light down there, and you really couldn't see it much of a, if any, really down in there, right? I'm sure it had to be obvious for them to go, "Hey, we're gonna have to take that out."
Probably saw
Right.
color.
Right.
They probably looked down there and saw color, because if you see color, you know there's gonna be a blob or something. Casper is going down. Well, let's see what's going to happen here. I'm fairly confident that I can hit the strike before he does, but let's see what goes on. And that's not saying he doesn't have a faster try. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. His shit is fast, and it's going to get a lot faster. But now, between now and the no names, can he get it together? Can he get it sorted, right? Because that's the big thing. Or is this one and done going to be like a test and tune for him? So, I got my fingers crossed, but it's looking better for Team Bottle Rocket every day. Let's see.
Ruckworts is wondering if Andy used a whole tube of blue glue to install the intake. That's something that Andy would have to answer.
Andy is definitely a make it happen guy. There's no question about it. But Andy has a lot of work ahead of him.
Dizzy Izzy is going to see me April 30th. Oh, so he's going to be at Jeffers then. My first race at a track. You were just there last year for the day before the Slanted Nationals.
Dakota is asking a question. The springs on my car are huge diameter springs for a roller cam I've got. Oh, I've got a flat top, and I took the center spring out to try and balance it out. Would two stiff springs make it sound more tame? No. You're not going to hear any difference in that. And okay, did you? All right. So you've got two types. You've got three types of springs. You have a single spring, which is just the outer round wire. Then you have the double spring, which is the outer wire with a damper, like a flat spring that's wound around the inside of it. And then you got a triple, which is the normal outer, the flat second, and then a third, like small diameter spring that just barely hugs over the valve stem. So if you took those out,
he says there's about 1/8 of an inch in the port.
That's enough to cause like
turbulence.
Not just turbulence, but it's enough to cause some of the fuel to come out of atomization, which would give that weird set, because you were talking about some cylinders were lean, some cylinders were fat, and you couldn't figure out why. Well, if you got a lump in there, you're going to have fuel hitting it, or the mixture hitting it, some of the fuel falling out of atomization. Those cylinders are going to turn out lean, even though they're fat, because the percentage of fuel in atomization is less, and you're not really counting the drops that go in there.
Yeah, he's saying it also had too much oil, which is still made 708 horsepower with too much oil in it. And you're going to have to drain it out by probably half a quart at a time to find out the happy number.
Let's see. Little Mike, Tony, with Slaghammer be racing on 8s or quarter-mile tracks, whatever Al brings it to. We have no quarter-mile tracks around here. The closest quarter-mile track is Bowling Green. It's 100 some miles up the road. Our closer local tracks are all 8th mile. What kind of time are you expecting to dial? I have no clue. I honestly don't know what that car is going to run. We'll find out when it gets out there. I mean, I don't know. See, in my mind, the first step is make it start. See, that's the first battle. Make it start. Now make it move under its own power. You know what I mean? That's the second battle. Get it up on a trailer. That's the third battle, right? So that's where I'm at with this car right now. I'm still trying to fight the first battle. When it runs, Who the hell knows? I don't know. We'll find out when we get there.
So here's a couple questions in a row. John what was that? Chojnacki has Uncle Tony ever been employee of the month at Uncle Tony's garage?
No, I haven't. And it's the management overlooking my capabilities.
That's applesauce, right?
Applesauce, yes.
Okay. And then Ruckworts 1, is a Junkyard Jet going to make the No Name Nationals or No Name Nationals 23? Right now, it sounds like they're going for this year. So, I mean, I don't see why there would be any problems with it otherwise. I know they're getting the car is almost, with the body's almost completely done, right?
It's as done as it's going to be this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And they got the cage in it and all that?
In the jet?
Yeah, the jet.
Yeah, that's all done.
Okay. Let's see.
Okay. Tyson King, thank you for the super chat. That Carter BBD, Carb, are there various sizes? Yes. If you can find the earlier ones are the better, up to 72, right? So 65, maybe 64. I don't know, 64 to like 72 is what you're looking for.
Here's your applesauce.
She wants her picture on the wall.
So that means no employee of the month for you.
She wants to be employee of the month,
right? But she's choosing the employee. That sounds like a conflict of interest right there.
Well, yeah, but it's always stacked against me like that.
Yeah. Well, and that's why the AC doesn't get fixed.
Everybody's out to get me.
You put Tony's picture on the wall, you're going to get the AC fixed.
Everybody's out to get me. You're the only one who's not out to get me, I think.
Well, wait till you find out how this goes down with No Name Nationals.
I got it.
You thought you had one and done. Now you find out you're going to have 3 and done. No, I'm not out to get you. I got nothing to get from anybody.
Kathy deserves all of the gold stars.
And the box they came in. Doug Narden says that everybody on here voted her permanent employee of the month. She's employee of the millennia.
She's saying this will put my picture on the wall.
All right. See? Now you're going to have to fix that AC.
Hey all, did Mopar small block distributor, Chrysler distributors change from 64 to 71? No, you may have different advance spring weights in there, depending on the application.
Especially like 71.
Yeah, but no, they're all the same. They're all interchangeable.
Dalton Peterson saying, where's the No Name Nationals going to be at? Sykeston, Missouri at Jeffers Motorsports Park, September 30th to October 1st. Blake is saying, I hate to wish summer away, but I can't wait for the No Name Nationals. Yeah, me neither. It's kind of on the horizon, but man, I definitely want to see how this whole season's going to go. This whole year has been weird for me.
Ari is saying, I'm now picturing an American Gothic with both of you guys as employees of the month. Let's see. VMAX BX is word on the street is the Westies are looking for Tony for some reason. See, everybody's out to get me. Let's see.
Don English is saying No Name Nationals will be here soon and left. Let's get Carlisle out of the way first. Yeah, I think
it's going to be a busy year.
Yeah, it's just weird year, right? Like, I heard up north they were having all that global warming come down from the sky again, all over the ground, in big piles of white stuff. I was never Sailor of the Month. I was always Sailor of the Day.
Need Metal, thank you for the super chat, Need Metal. I've had the best results using valve springs recommended for particular cam. Yeah, of course. Setting the height properly and saying a prayer. Mr. Will saying, don't turn into Howard Hughes. I'm so close. You have no idea.
What was he doing at the end? It was peeing in milk bottles.
Yeah, I'm ready to pee in milk bottles and wear tissue boxes.
That's what I was going to say. The tissue boxes.
Yeah, I'm there. I am so there. You have no idea. I'm ready.
Well, you know, people would definitely leave you alone at the No Name Nationals if you were walking around looking like
They
that.
will. Shanty Irish. Who said Shanty Irish?
Don't use the brown nitrous. I don't know what that is.
It's a reference to Woodstock.
Oh,
Don't eat the brown acid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Westies from Hello Kitchen.
Randy Bowers asks, can you still buy Dana 6353-ish gears, or are they all junk? I'm assuming you could probably buy them at 100 different places on the internet.
Yeah, the ratio for the Dana 60 is 354.
But I think they came in just about anything, though, right? Anything that got a Dana 60 got like 354 gears.
Yeah, I think there's like a 320 series, might be 323, 320. There's a 320 series, there's a 354, there's a 373, there's a 391, a 410. Yeah, it's like the whole gamut you can find in Dana 60.
I'm sure Randy's Ringing Pinions got that on the
Don't
shelf.
be so sure, man. Every time I go to get something for
Dana
Randy's Ringing
60?
Pinion, well, yeah, Dana 60, yeah.
I mean, wasn't that in every 3/4 ton truck until they started making their own rear ends?
Yeah, you're right. For a Dana, should have a problem. I've been having problems with all the rears I go there for. But
Really?
none of them are Dana 60s.
Right. Well, and I don't know anybody that's even got a Dana 60 in anything anymore. The big thing was sticking them in the little modified cars. Little modified cars, for some reason, 290 cubic inches when you dump the clutch was puking rear ends. Moved to a Dana 60, and now it's doing nothing but puking 60 footers.
If you've taken the brown nitrous, please come to the medical tent. That's funny. Loud Burns, brand new flamethrower coil today, failed in 5 minutes. Al and I were just talking about that. Somebody in the comments was in that last video we did, because I have this thing for the yellow coils, the big yellow, the Axel yellow coils, right? They've never let me down. I've been using those since I was a teenager. They haven't changed, and they never let me down. And it's an honest 40,000 volt coil. Never had a problem with them. So somebody in the comments, okay, somebody in the comments was, why do you use those big old yellow coils? Why don't you get something new? Al and I were just talking about this today. We both had an experience with MSD blaster coils that went bad. They just went totally flat within a short period of time. I had one that went flat probably in about 6 months. I had it on my GT, and he had one that was bad out of the box. In the meantime, those super coils just keep going and going and going, and they're yellow, right?
Oh, yeah, and they're huge.
They're huge. It's like, look at my man coil, right? It's like, how do you not love those things?
You know what's funny? I had a blaster coil. I put on my 72 Buick Skylark in 1998, and it said, for drag racing use only, do not use this on the street, right? And I used it on the street for 20 years, driving that thing all over the place, and it never went bad. So I bought a second one. And that thing literally was tits up 10 minutes after I put it on.
Levi's Backyard Performance sent a $20 super chat. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Hey, Tony, life has been hectic between my grandma almost dying from a medication that made her kidneys malfunction. Oh, I'm sorry about that. And cardiac arrest. The double whammy. I'm also getting behind on videos and feel bad for my subscribers at 295, almost 300. Thanks, guys. Go support Levi, and I hope his grandmother. I hope grandma pulls through, and everything is okay with that. Thank you for the super chat, little Mike. Thank you for the super chat. Sent 5 scuttles.
What, he didn't have any.
Oh, I sent 2 super chat donations already and didn't see either of them. What a jip! Oh man, I didn't see any of them.
You're the first one. This is the first one we've seen.
Yes, the first one we've seen. And usually when we miss one, occasionally we do.
Well, applesauce will catch it usually.
Yeah, somebody will catch it. One of the mods catches it, or one of the other. Yeah.
Well, there was a blue one.
It'll show up there.
Yeah, it didn't. That's what's so puzzling, because we've had problems where we've missed one before, but like Tony said, somebody will normally catch it. And the reason that we miss them is because they'll get 20 different comments blow through here in just a few seconds. And then when we stop and read one, when we catch back up, it skips over everything that's been happening in the past 20 seconds or whatever.
Dizzy Izzy, MSD 80,000 coil, Pro Comp 80,000 volt distributor. What do you need that for exactly? What are you lighting with 80,000 volts?
Hey man, always wet the sponge. If you've never seen that movie, I know you probably haven't actually.
I haven't.
That's one you need to go watch.
What is that?
That's a great movie. The Green Mile.
Never seen it.
No, The Green Mile. Yeah. So they work in a prison, right?
Okay.
And they work on the cell block where they electrocute all the guys, right?
Okay.
Well, one guy, he wanted to see he didn't like this dude, so he wanted to see what would happen if you didn't wet the sponge that they put on their head.
Okay.
So they let the dude ride the lightning with the dry sponge on his head.
Why would I want to watch that?
Well, it's a really good movie. Have you ever seen Shawshank Redemption?
No.
No? It's a Stephen King flick, and they're fantastic.
Yeah, I don't want to watch torture.
Well, it's not torture. I mean, it's a story about those guys that work there, and it's really good.
Yeah, I'm just not into it. I can't.
All right. See, James McKinley, The Green Mile is a very good movie.
I'm not a movie guy. I know a lot of people are. I'm just not. I was born without the suspension of disbelief. I don't have it, so I just don't enjoy movies.
Sean Fagan says, "Wow, he watches a lot of movies." Look, guys, I was in the Navy 23 years. What do you think we do out at sea when you're gone for 9 months? We generally get all the movies for free.
You watch movies.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the only thing you can do to keep your sanity. I didn't have anything I could go wrench on. I mean, the whole day I probably ended up spending working on something, but the last thing you want to do is wrench on
it. Didn't Tony say in an earlier video that he used to watch The Green Mile every Sunday night? Yes, of course. Tony, you watched Dale. Oh, Franco, what's happening, brother? You watched Dale Barlett set himself on fire several times. I also watched him heal slowly.
See, and then you can watch Walk on the Mile. Is that it for Super Chats?
I believe so. New City Carpet, thoughts on aluminum dry shift for stocker type cars? It's a help, but only if you're going for that. I mean, the last little tiny bit of.
If you already have a steel one in there, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have anything, sure, buy an aluminum one. They only cost a little bit more.
If you're running, let's say you're running like 11004, and you just will do anything to go 11002, aluminum dry shift will get you there.
Let's see. Tyson King says, "Would you expect mile per hour gains going to a BBD worth the cash?"
Probably.
All right. So there's an easy way to weigh that, right? If you're going to spend $200 on this carburetor, how much does $200 in gas buy? Not a lot, right? So it wouldn't be long before you made your money back.
Yeah, you just pick up 2-3 miles to the gallon. I mean, you should, because they're calibrated basically for mileage. The Holly that's on there, I know from experience, is kind of on the fat side.
Hollies were never really good on fuel. Not till you they were good for drag racing.
Yeah, well, this is a different kind of Holly.
Right. This is a 2-barrel Holly, right? But I've never had a Holly get better gas mileage than a factory any type of carburetor. The factory ones were really miserly.
Well, you see, Andy from Unity, he has figured out how to get the mileage out of Holly.
Well, and I bet he has, because he figured out the one for
and that's the same
Plan Z,
that's the
right?
Same setup. That's the same thing modification you make for fuel mileage.
I've never had one, and Andy would be the first guy I know of that has kind of it's figured it out. I'm sure there's guys out there that get it, but I think that BBD would probably pay for itself. It was $200. Now, if you're talking like it's going to be $600, $700, $800, it's probably not worth it. Then
you can get the BBD you can get the Chinese knockoff BBD, which from what I heard is exact, and it works fine right out of the box for like $80 or $75, $80. So you really can't go wrong.
Andy will get 20 plus miles per gallon from the Dominators. Ooh, I don't know. Not on that big motor, I don't think. But 17 would be impressive. Really impressive.
Let's see. Broke Joker ATV. Tony, if you could have any car regardless of cost and not associated with Mopar, what would it be? I don't really. I gotta be honest with you. If I wanted it, I would have it. I don't worry about. I don't worry about what stuff costs. I don't worry about. If I wanted it, I would have it. So I can't.
I always wanted a BMW Isetta.
Yeah, right.
They just didn't have enough of them. You couldn't find them anywhere. That was the one with the front opening door, right?
Yeah.
It's no doubt in my mind why some of them foreign cars, why it took so long for them to catch on. When you make your first cars like an Isetta or a Messerschmitt, well, the Messerschmitt was American, but let's see what else was the weird. Like, you remember the first Hondas, that little 600cc motor in them?
I remember working on those when I was a teenager.
Well, maybe in New York they were probably a lot more prevalent than they were anywhere else. But those things, I remember watching big, tall, white dudes trying to get in those things that were like second or third hand, and it was literally like the epitome of clown car, right? Like you'd have to fold yourself in to get in that thing.
I thought they were pretty cool, but those first Civics, I guess they came out in 75 or 76. The Honda Civic was
the CVCCs, right?
Yeah, that was a stratified charge motor, the CVCC.
That was actually a really fuel economic motor, right?
But those cars were just a miracle of packaging. If you go back to the day and you remember how things were set up, right? Mm-hmm. So picture mid 1970s. What are you working on? You know what I mean? And those Civics came along, and they're just the size of this table, sideways mounted motor, which was radical back then. And I remember I remember the first time I saw one of those, I was completely enamored with it. I thought it was amazing. Let's see. Blake Showist. How about Honda ATCs? Three-wheelers are neat. Oh, man, if you want to walk. It's like, I never messed around with them, right? But like, you ever play with those? The three-wheelers?
No.
Yeah, it's like there's a whole segment of my generation that like is crippled.
Oh, wiped out. Yeah. I do remember that, because you remember there was a huge lawsuit over them things.
Yeah,
and the logic and the science was sound. I mean, the most stable thing has 3 points, right?
Except when you're going forward
and you're bouncing. And then you remember them tires were like balloons on those things.
Well, it was just a matter of cutting a turn just the wrong way,
and you would whoop.
Right.
Yeah.
It was all body language with those things. I remember watching the guys race those. There was a racing series for those, and the body language when they would race those three-wheelers, it was like, you ever see them when they race?
They're hanging way off the side to keep the balance. Yep. The thing that always screwed me up, like I've ridden them before, was I grew up riding motorcycles, right? And then I'd jump on one of those things, and it's so motorcycle-like. What's the first thing you do? Well, you put both your feet down, and then you take off, and you run your freaking legs over and pull yourself up under the tires. That's the thing that always, I could never get past it.
Amish Mafia, 77 Civic, drove it to South Florida, 50 miles per gallon. I was shocked. I thought those cars were fantastic. I honestly did.
Wild Rose Garage says he had a ATC 250R that would run 95 miles an hour.
Oh, Jesus.
Don't cut the wheel on that one.
That's a suicide mission, man.
Well, matter of fact, is it Ian Russo from the Full Custom Garage?
Yeah.
Did you see his new thing that he put up?
I saw a picture of it. I think it was on Facebook, where it's got the frame going over.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
that guy is so interesting when it comes to stuff.
Yeah, no,
he thinks outside the box, but I guess his viewers were like, "Hey, that's ugly as hell," and he was like, the next picture that you probably saw after that, he was holding a beer in one hand and had his middle finger up, right? And he said, "It's my car."
I missed that. I didn't see that.
I
just saw the picture of him. He's sitting in it, and it's got
like the handlebars are like normal height, but it's like everything was going up over your head.
Yeah.
It looked cool. It didn't have a single trike wheel in the front. It was like a narrow dragster axle in the front.
James McKinley, three-wheelers had had one years ago, very dangerous. I grew up running dirt bikes. A three-wheeler is way more dangerous. Dude, I would get on a dirt bike right now and just go blast it without any pause or hesitation. A three-wheeler? No, man. No, just no.
I think it was Honda. Honda's the one that got burned on that big time deal, wasn't it?
They got sued. There was a lot of there were like 80 deaths associated with those things, and then all of the cripples. Doug Narden, my bud owns a pit bike that has an RD350 in it and a wheelie bar. I refused to ride it. Oh man, is four-wheeler, two-wheeler?
I'm assuming when he says pit bike, it's probably just a two-wheel.
I'm
small one.
I'm 250R. Well, look at that 250R. It's funny you say that, man, because that's literally what I've been thinking lately. I need a dirt bike, but I don't want an all-out dirt bike. I don't want a two-stroke. I don't want a beast. I don't want a KX 250 or nothing like that. I want a Honda, a 250R, just a trail bike, just a nice, something you can get a little nutty with, but nothing that's over the top.
You need more. Remember the bikes they used to have, the dual-purpose bikes, turn signals and stuff, but yet it's still capable of going off-road. That would be great for that. Enduro. So Cole Nasham says, Tony and Dallas, I have a tech question. I'm ordering conversion parts for my 78W150 400. Would it be a 6 or 8 bolt flywheel?
6.
There you go. There's your answer.
6 bolt flywheel on that.
All right. Doug Narden says two-wheeler. It's a mini bike frame with a wheelie bar.
Big Billy Racing, no Harley dirt bike. You know what? There was so little interest in that I gave up on the project. I gave up on the idea of the project. I still have the frame, but I like I said, no interest. What'll happen is I say, okay, here's how this works. You have an idea. You throw the idea out there, right? And some of them catch, and you run with that. Now I'm talking about for YouTube as far as views go. Remember, we're slaves to views. So if you throw something out there and there's minimal interaction, minimal enthusiasm for it, minimal clicks, that's a dead end. Don't keep pursuing it because it only hurts the channel's average, which hurts the algorithm. So there are several things that we started on, and then you look at the numbers and you say, no, people are not following this. It's just not the thing. And so you stop and you focus your efforts on things that do get views and clicks. And that's why we bounce sometimes from thing to thing, because we'll say, okay, I want to do this, and it's something I genuinely want to do. But if it hurts the numbers on the channel, I'm working against myself. I'm hurting, I cut my own throat. So that's why we stop on certain things. We'll introduce it, give it a run, see if it goes. And if it doesn't go, we pull the plug and move on to something else.
And, I was actually just going to say that. Like, you guys got to remember, he's got to pay the bills with what he does on YouTube, right? So if the views are horrible, right, you can't, no matter how much you want to do it, you can't keep following with it because it's going to crush you. And you can't make rent, and then you're eating noodles for real on your Super Cub that's getting repossessed. So, but Joe Brennan, this is the second time I've seen this tonight. Let's see the cleaver. What do you want me to do with it? What do you want me to do with it? You want me to pull it out? That's what it's right now. It's in my garage because I don't have time for it. But if you guys really want to see it, I can pull the thing out, and it needs just about everything gone through. What do you think I should do with it?
I don't know. I'm the last person to ask because I got a bunch of cars that are just sitting around doing nothing. So for me to tell you what to do with your car,
yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of right now. I'm just kind of happy with leaving it where it is. I need to get all this other Buick stuff out of my garage. I'm buried in it, and so once I get all that stuff out of the way, I will find time for the cleaver, and we'll get it ready to rock and roll again. I'll make some passes in it. There's a few things I want to do. Like I had a tunnel ram made for it. Did I show you that?
Yeah. I asked you what that was for. You told me it was for.
Yeah, EFI tunnel ram, which I know that you're not keen on, but that's what I made.
That's okay.
6 years ago, or probably longer than that, 7 years ago.
Wheelie King is saying I need an XR or an XL 250R. Yeah, I had a couple of them. But yeah, you're right. That's exactly what I need. Actually, I'd like to find an Elsinore. I'd like to find something, what year they introduced us? 75, I think, 73, 74, 75. I'd like to find one of those, one of the aluminum tank versions. That would be bitching. But I'll take any of them except for the one with the dual carb. I don't remember what year that was. I don't remember the designation or the year. I don't want the one with dual carb, but you would know those better than I would.
Here's something that's kind of interesting. Bear B says, does anyone make a stroker crank for a Slant 6?
Ooh.
Would other manufacturers' inline Slant 6 cranks work? Skip the whole idea and V8 swap. All right. Isn't the 225 is already a stroker, right?
The 225 is already way more stroke than that motor needs for performance use, right? It's or you don't want a stroker crank. The problem with that engine is it's built for low end torque. It's a grunt motor. It doesn't. It's a tiny bore, super long stroke, super long rod. It's already got way more stroke than it needs.
Yeah, think industrial application,
Yeah.
right? Like forklift. That's what it's
It's
made
a
for.
perfect forklift engine. Let's see. You wouldn't want to stroke a Slant 6. No, I would. I definitely would not. I don't know. Some people do. Really can dual carb with 85-ish. Yeah, no, the 250s definitely have.
There's a new video on YouTube I just saw the other day about a Slant 6 car that was running 10s, right? And I mean, that's not bad. It's 550, 600 horse.
Is it turbocharged?
It's turbocharged.
Yeah, well, they're down in the low 9s.
Well, you saw the one at the Slanted Nationals, right? The Valiant, the 66 Valiant.
I didn't see it run.
Oh, you never saw it run?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it ran 630.
Yeah, there's
in
some
the 8th mile.
Turbocharged cars. There's some really stout ones out there. The fastest of the normally aspirated cars are in the bottom 11s. 1120, 1130.
Like Ruster.
Right. That's what I'm shooting for with that.
How much can you bore out a Slant 6? Ooh, just like any other engine, you're going to be limited to cylinder wall thickness, and most of them were pretty much what, 60,000?
60,000 is about the average maximum overbore.
Well, there you go. Franco 2K says in Vietnam we had Flightline tugs with Slant 6s and a chrome valve cover.
Broke Joker, hey Uncle Tony, do you ever watch Dylan McCool? If so, what's your thoughts on him? He's a good kid. Can we ever get a face-off? Face-off? Why would I face off with Dylan McCool? He's a good kid. I've actually met him a couple of times. Charles Manson, what's with the drool tubes on Slant 6 spark plugs and on other having them at all? The drool tube motors are from 1960 through 70, 75, I think, maybe 76, and then they changed to the peanut style plug with no drool tube. So that's the one. The early ones with the drool tube take a 13/16 plug, and the later ones without the drool tubes take a 5/8 plug, like a GM.
Oh, something happened to me this week that it's got me inspired, man. I think I need to build a big block Buick that's different.
Okay.
I got a set of like 60s style Mickey Thompson aluminum rods for Pontiac. And I found out with a little bit of homework, I cut 5 thousandths off each side of the rod and the fit in a Buick.
I mean, how many runs have they had?
I have no idea. I probably need to get them checked for stretch, huh?
Or shrink. If they run on nitro, they'll shrink.
Shrink?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. Blah, blah.
I just thought that'd be an interesting thing to do to big block Buick.
Flatbroke Auto, what's up? The early 7318 engines having a 2-barrel single plane intake, and is it better than the dual? It's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. They're all about the same. Let's see. Joe Key, the Hemi car. They're talking amongst themselves, which gives us a minute to say, what do you, the no-name nationals, you want to?
Well, I don't know if there's anything to plug. I mean,
we have different people cycling through.
Okay. So No Name Nationals is coming up September 30th, October 1st at Jeffers Motorsports Park in Sykeston, Missouri. So if you haven't registered, go ahead and hit NoNameNationals.com, get yourself registered. You can even buy participant tickets there where you save yourself some cash at the gate. You save $5 at the gate. So make sure you head over there and get yourself some tickets. Matter of fact, we're going to have merch coming out here soon. We're working on some merch. We're going to have a No Name National shirt.
Whoa.
Yep. Blake from Bad Tree actually gave me one that he custom made. I thought was pretty nice. It's in the wash at home, but I'll probably wear it next week so I could show it off.
I would love to see this.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here's a question for you, I think. Alan McElroy, when playing with brakes, have you stayed with stock on front or cross-drilled rotors?
Well, I've done cross-drilled rotors on stuff that's towing heavy weights because the cross-drilled rotor, the whole purpose of that thing is to dissipate the heat buildup it's actually the gas buildup between the pad and the rotor itself, right? But for a daily, I would have to stick with stock rotors because those tend to crack right there at those cross-drilled spots. I don't know why. I imagine it's just it's not metal fatigue, it's work hardening, right? Work hardening would break them, so it would crack them.
When it comes to brakes, unless it's like an all-out tube chassis car, I have a taboo about brakes. I don't touch whatever the factory put there is exactly how I leave it.
Yeah, I've just put cross-drilled rotors on my tow rig. That's it.
Yeah. Mr. Will, do front runners have a side that needs to face out? No difference. They're not directional. Front runners. Yeah.
On drag tires?
Yeah. Well, front runners.
Yeah. I can't think of any that are directional.
They're not directional. Jason Fitch, the rotor fails because the guy who cross-drilled it was distracted by all the chickens running around.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
You know the best one I've seen here lately? Did you see the one where the guy welds the crank back together?
Isn't that great? I love those guys.
Like, what in the world? Are you kidding me? And
you want to see how real men tackle things, right? Those Pakistanis are just off the chain. They're great. But my advice to anybody who wants to screw around with brakes, right? You know, you're thinking about doing this to your brakes or doing that to your brakes or anything like that. Here's my advice from 45 years of actual hands-on experience as a mechanic and as everything else under the sun. Don't do it. Just leave the damn things alone. You're not going to outsmart the engineers at the National Highway Traffic Association. You're not going to outthink them. You're not going to come up with anything better. Leave your freaking brakes alone.
You know, the only things I've ever really modified on brakes is, you remember in the 70s, for running stock eliminator, the trick used to be you take the station wagon version of your car wheel cylinders and put them in the rear.
Okay.
So it had bigger pistons in there, have more ply pressure, right? Be able to hold it on the line better. That's about the only thing I've ever done for my race car got strange brakes up front. Because I mean, that's literally what came with the kit. And then in the back, I actually went out of my way to put drums on the dang thing from a Ford Aerostar. Yeah, it came with the big drums, and they were an inch wider than the factory Fox stuff.
Really, King, not a question, more of a plea for good luck. I bought my first Jag yesterday. Oh, good luck. I mean, really good luck.
Some of them are cool.
What the fuck was I thinking? It's a 2011.
Oh, no.
God.
No.
I think it was more gizmos than I thought possible.
Oh, man. I thought if it was like a 70s Jag, you could put a small block Chevy in them and turbo.
Yeah. I thought you were talking like a 60s, 70s. Like, oh, no. You bought a 2011 Jag. Oh, God.
You know, those things with that, you remember the 60s ones that had like the 3.8 liter dual overhead cam motor? They sound so freaking cool wound up on the track.
Yeah. Oh, all Jags are just.
That's what I'm talking about.
They're magic.
The 3.8 or whatever it is, the inline.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's the Jaguar engine. Yeah.
It sounds so good.
But after like 2000, after the 90s, once you got into the 90s, they threw gizmo after gizmo after.
Oh, that was the Ford years, right?
Yeah, they just they threw everything in the sun and it all failed simultaneously.
Yeah, as you pull
It's
off the
all
lot.
designed to fail simultaneously. Franco saying you need to buy 2 Jaguars so you have one to drive while the others in the shop. That's the truth.
Joe K says he uses OEM parts to upgrade brakes. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was talking about. Was like you get the bigger wheel cylinders in your drums, or like the there's some other versions that have the larger master cylinder pistons, right? Or, but depending upon what you're trying to do, I mean, smaller is sometimes better too because it gives you more pedal feel.
Yeah. See, to me, it's just a taboo. You know what I mean? It's just a taboo. I figure that I am not going to see. Okay, when you look at modifying, let's just say you're looking at modifying an engine, right? There are tons of compromises built into a production car, right? Whether it's tuning or the actual parts themselves, tons and tons of room for improvement, right? Because it all has to be very pedestrian. It all has to be very mellow. It all has to be very user friendly all the time. So there's huge, unbelievable gains that can be made messing around with engines. Brakes, on the other hand, no. The engineers, that was a priority. Okay, that was a priority. Those things had to stop. They had to do their job. They got to stop the weight of that car, and get the job done. They put the best quality stuff in there. All of it has to meet government standards. All of it has to meet minimum government standards. There is no messing around. There's nothing you're going to do to a conventional brake system that, in my mind, is going to justify the compromises. And I have yet to see anybody who had long-term success with aftermarket brakes. There's always a gotcha. There's always a problem. I can't tell you exactly specifically, but there's always a gotcha. There's always a gotcha when you put it together. Can't get a pedal. This line leaks. That caliper sticks. It pulls. Can't get pressure. And then once you get past all of that, they only last maybe 2 years, 3 years of regular use before the calipers start leaking. The stand starts to bend. The screws unscrew themselves. The bolts unscrew themselves because of it. There's always a gotcha. There's always something.
Paul Sims says, Uncle Tony, that's just not true. The old drum brakes totally sucks. They have way better stuff now. If you're going to go through them, you have to do the whole system. So here's, I really hate when people hate on drum brakes. All right, go look at a semi and see what kind of brakes it's got.
Right, exactly.
Right. The reason why they use them is a drum brake actually has more surface area, right?
Right.
The other thing is when it's going down the road, it doesn't drag. So you're not losing energy to your braking system that's constantly riding on the rotor surface. That's the downside of them, right? Are they better on road racing? Sure as hell they are. They don't get hot like a drum brake. But if you're drag racing, right, or you're just driving the car as a daily driver, there's no freaking problem for drum brakes. That's why when the car came out in the 1800s until 2008, everything had drum brakes, and it primarily on the rear.
I believe that going to the 4-wheel disc was more because it was a gimmick. They had 4-wheel disc brake options going way back. I mean,
the
Z28, the 69, the 69 Z28 had them. Lots of different cars had 4-wheel disc brake options. The Trans Ams had them all through the 70s and shit, but they never caught on. It was never a thing. I believe going to the 4-wheel disc from the manufacturer was a cost-saving fucking measure because it's cheaper.
It might be
to produce a disc.
Well, when they started putting the hub up front, and then you could use the rotor virtually, you just mass produce that one rotor. Right?
But Paul, by all means, if you want to change them, go right ahead. I mean, I'm not going to stop you. All I'm saying is that I don't do it. I have a taboo about screwing around with brakes. I do not screw around with brakes.
I just hate when people hate on drums. Drums are that's a good braking system. There's a reason why it would lasted for 100 years.
Kenny wouldn't try stopping a 9-second call with 4-wheel drum brakes. It's not fun. Kenny, up until 1969, 1968, funny cars were running in the 7s and 8-second to high 7-second zone. They only had 2-wheel brakes on the back, and they were all drums. Discs didn't become the thing until about 1969, 1970. They were all disc in the back.
And if you saw the hot braking system of the day, they used to take the Buick drums, aluminum drums from the Buick, and put it on the rear drums of the like the race car, right? One, they weighed less. Two, they dissipated heat faster. But there's not a problem really, I don't think, with 9-second on drum brakes. Drum brakes work fine if you're stopping in a straight line. Drum brakes work great if you're only going to use them one time to slow down from 120 miles an hour, right? Just my take.
Let's see. James McKinley, my 69 Roadrunner had 4 years ago, had drums on all fours, ran low 12s at stop, but when it got to the end of the quarter, it took until I got back to where I was parked to cool down. Probably because the shoes weren't making full contact. That's a very common thing. If the shoes aren't making full contact with the drum, they get crazy, super hot because you got to use a lot of effort, a lot of pedal effort to get them to work. If the shoes are matched to the drum, then it takes much less pedal effort. There's less friction involved. They cool down. They don't get like that.
Mr. Will's dying breed. I'm not arguing with you here. Of course, they were different drums on the front and rear of your 90 Formula. There was all the cars that had essentially four-wheel discs. They had different rotors on the front and the rear. But it wasn't until later where that's what Tony was saying, cost savings, right? When the cars started becoming where they had the removable rotor hat, I would make the rear the same as the front, right? Isn't that where you would save money at? Where you just make one rotor, not multiple different drums, multiple different rotors. You just make one rotor hat, fits on the front and rear. That's all I was saying. That was money savings. Of course, they're not interchangeable on the early stuff.
Let's see. Well, made performance police drums that were larger 11-inch. The performance cars all came with the Roadrunners and GTXs all came with 11-inch drums. Reaction is faster with disc. Which reaction? Reaction off the starting line? No, reaction off the starting line is quicker with drums. The big benefit if you're doing a drag type car, the main benefit of drums is that they'll hold the car on the starting line while you work the torque converter. You go to four-wheel disc, there isn't enough stationary grabbing power, and it pushes through. So you got to go to a trans brake. And when you go to the trans brake, now you're shocking the rear end, and so it's like the loop of like stress and destruction. If you've got four-wheel drum brakes on the car, you can load it against the converter. It'll sit still on the line, and you're not shocking the rear end. The rear end is already preloaded. The torque is already in it. So when you let go of the brake, the car just moves forward. That's the big thing about disc brakes, drum brakes, and drag racing, where you're almost always better off with drum brakes.
This one just makes me want to get in an argument right here. But so Ken from Tall Garage says, Dallas, I hit 250 subs halfway there. Show Tony the video I sent you on Facebook of the LS head. Oh, yeah, he cut up an LS head.
I've heard about this.
He sent me a video of it the other day when we did a live.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I'll show it to you.
Yeah.
But Paul Sims, that semis have air brakes, and the air is what's used to apply the brakes, right?
The air on a semi. The air holds the brakes out, right, or in, I should say. They apply when the air is taken away from them.
That's just like the hydraulic fluid in your brake.
No, it's opposite.
Right, but I'm saying that it's what's actuating the brake. It still has drums on it with shoes.
No, the air. Okay, on an air brake system, right?
Mm-hmm.
The shoes are sprung to be out unless the air is applied. The air holds them in. It's the opposite of.
Right, but it's the apply. That's what's apply. Okay, so the brakes
they apply when you take the air away.
Right. Okay, I think I'm losing everybody here. The brakes themselves, there's multiple things that make the brakes work, okay? On a semi, it uses drums with shoes, right? That's non-debatable. That's exactly how they are. How you apply them, like if from a regular passenger car, hydraulic, right? Most of the time it's hydraulic, okay? I don't think there's anything that works on air for a passenger vehicle anymore, right? Semi-truck, buses, stuff like that has an air system. That's what applies the brakes. That's not how the brakes function. It's still a drum with a shoe. And it's not apples and oranges. They're just drum or disc. I don't know if there's any other way.
John Chajowski says we are lost.
I know. Man, who wants to talk about EGR?
Yes, Egypt. Remember that night?
Oh my God. I was like, no, it causes detonation. No, it doesn't. It doesn't cause detonation.
Let's see. Runner repels different types of racing, use different type of brakes.
Right.
Yes.
See, and this is why Bear Rose Garage says semis use air to keep it from boiling because your fluid won't boil, right?
The shroud. Yeah. The shroud.
Oh, you know what? Speaking of that, it's let's see. Kipton Joshua says, "Do you still have the Helvetier?" I saw
Yes.
Kathy sent a video the other day. It was hailing here.
Yeah.
And it was hailing on the Helvetier.
Yeah.
Did it get all beat up?
No, it was that little hail. It wasn't the golf ball hail.
Oh, all right.
But my cars have all been through crazy hailstorms, and there's no damage.
I bet you if you had a new car today, it'd be all damaged up.
It would.
Because it's like 1/3 as thin. I know the shroud. What about air pumps?
Semi brakes are spring applied, not air applied. Yes. The air holds the spring, holds the mechanism in. Mr. Will is saying, let's agree to disagree. People that grew up with drums like drums, and people who always had disc will like disc. Unless you're exposed to an all drum car, you will never be convinced. It depends on what you're doing with it. I don't do road racing. I'm not somebody who has to worry about heat, repeated stopping or anything like that. And okay, so context. It's all context. Everything we do on this channel is basically street and strip type of stuff, right? So I only consider performance, and this is just me too. I only consider performance. To me, performance only means one thing: acceleration. Everything else is secondary. Right? Nothing else matters. I only care about the way the car accelerates. Other people have different priorities. So when I'm talking, you always have to take that with a grain of salt. That my opinions are based on somebody who only considers acceleration as performance. So I'm jaded in that respect.
Tony, with a line lock, would you still want drum over disc? Yes.
I don't use line locks. I've never used a line lock.
With a line lock, drums will hold better than discs.
Yes.
Who was the first one with disc brakes? Was it Chrysler? I know Max did a video.
We were just talking about
not
that.
A video. Were you?
Yeah, we were just Sunday night. We were talking about
he
that.
He did an article on like CarCraft about some weird disc brake system on an early Chrysler, like 50 or 51.
Yes. Yeah, it was earlier than that. It was in the 40s.
Was it really?
Yeah, 46, 47. Yeah, he did a whole. We were actually talking about that the other night. Bill, thank you so much for the super chat. UTG, I have a video idea for you. I need video ideas. Linking wrenches together for more leverage and other stuff like that. I had to do it at work yesterday. One of the new guys just stared at me like I was made of magic. It was funny because last week I had Uncle Crystal was here and she needed to change the brakes. She wanted to change the brakes on her Toyota herself. So she was. I showed her how to. I showed her what had to be done on the one side, and then she did the other side. And she was struggling with that. And I showed her the trick about linking the wrenches together for the extra leverage. Fast staying. Use a trans brake and you don't have to worry about holding back the converter. Fast staying. Here's the fallacy. Here's the issue with that. And I was just talking about it, right? So think about this for a second. If you load the converter against the brakes and not a trans brake, if you load the converter against the brakes, you're already putting all of the twist in the driveline. Okay, so the drive shaft is already as far as it's going to go. The pinion is buried in the ring gear as far as it'll go. The axles are already in a twist position. When you take your foot off the brake, all of that stuff is already set and ready to go. Right now, if you do it with a trans brake, the drive shaft is relaxed. The ring and pinion is relaxed. The axles are relaxed. Everything is relaxed. And so when you let go of the trans brake, you're shocking the system. Which is more harmful? Which requires bigger, heavier parts to live? Bigger, heavier parts require more power to turn and get you down the track. So think about that.
Well, when I built my Cleaver T-Bird, I went with a C4 transmission. That was why I did not use a trans brake in it. It was all foot brake because I didn't know how long that C4 was going to hold up behind that motor. They have problems around 600 something horsepower.
Mike Batista, trans brake is like dumping the clutch. It's exactly like dumping the clutch.
I'm gonna find out what that's like here
actually,
soon.
No. You know something? The trans brake is actually more harmful than dumping the clutch. Well, okay, on a street car. If you're talking about a street type of clutch, because on a street type of clutch, you have a sprung hub and you have a Marcel between the friction surfaces, right? And all of that is there to absorb some of the impact, some of the shock, and you don't get any of that with a trans brake. The trans brake is just go.
Well, it's loaded on the front side,
yeah,
right? As soon as you let off that button, I mean, everything's already engaged. It is putting power out the back.
Yep.
And if you want to see like how well that's loaded, you ever seen one of those guys stay on the brake too long and it spews training fluid out the vent because it'll boil the training fluid inside the transmission?
Yep, I've seen that too. Fast Night, my dad has been running a 3D3 Cleveland, running high nines with a trans brake, no issue. Listen, I'm not saying that every trans brake is a problem. What I'm saying is you're better off. The whole car is better off holding it against a set of drum brakes than against the trans brake. I'm not saying the trans brake won't work. Obviously, trans brakes work, but it's far less damaging with a loading the driveline against drums than it is loading against a trans brake. It also depends on the type of tire that you're using too. If you're using a very soft sidewall tire, you use like a regular drag sled,
that takes some of the shock.
A wrinkle wall tire, then yeah, the trans brake is okay. When you get into let's say you're racing a radial type of car,
there you go,
with a trans brake.
Joseph Giannini says trans brake does what's called shearing shock. So when it hits the initial first turn,
it's like hitting everything with a chisel.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But I like the way they look when you let off the trans brake. The car freaking launches hard. But I noticed there's not really much of an ET difference between them. You know what I mean? But it does make you faster on the tree. I did find that out because you're doing it with your hand and not your foot. And there's a lot less to actuate, right? Because it's just when you let off that button, all it is a solenoid inside of the transmission, routing fluid or disrupting the route of the fluid.
Big Belly Racing, Uncle Tony, don't you find rear disc conversion an upgrade even if you could newer stock parts? No, listen to me. I do not mess with brakes. Whatever the brake system is on that car, unless it's an all-out race car, if it's a tube car, all-out race car, something that needs a parachute, that type of car, then yeah, you got to do brakes, right? But 10-second car, high 9-second car, anything that's like under 130 or so miles an hour on a quarter mile, 135 miles on a quarter mile, no, don't mess with the brakes. Just leave it the frick alone. You're not going to outsmart the engineers. Just make sure that everything is functioning to the best of its ability.
I love foot braking my 87 Buick Turbo. I like boosting them up. I remember in the 80s when those things were new and the guys would take them out, like they figured out boosting them up, they would run better off the line, right? Harder off the line. Mm-hmm. And you'd get guys that they'd go down to the GM dealer and buy a brand new Grand National and drive it to the Buick Nationals in 86, 87, and they'd boost them up. And it's literally a stock car. They get it on the line, they just got their foot to the floor and the brakes pressed as hard as you possibly could, right? And then it would do ridiculous stuff when they took off. Sometimes they'd fall on their face. Sometimes they'd push a head gasket out. Sometimes they'd just freaking take off. And these dudes would be, it's their daily driver. And it would freaking launch them back. And they're like, oh my God. And they're in a weird position because they got their foot matted on the gas and the brake, right? So it's like you're standing up in the car holding the steering wheel. And then you let off that brake, that sucker like takes off and you got really nothing holding you in there.
Mr. Will, don't kill me, please. Why don't we ever see race cars running the 3s and the 8th with drums? Because they're tube cars. We're talking about apples and oranges. For the context of this conversation, we're talking cars that people drive on the street strip cars, regular hot rods. We're not talking about tube chassis 3-second cars. Obviously, it's absurd to not have
that's a weight
full on right. Apples and oranges. We're talking about 3,000 to 4,000 pound cars with between like 300 and 600 horsepower that you drive, you know what I mean? Like regular suspension cars. That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about all-out race cars. We're not talking about 3-second, eighth-mile cars. We're not talking about top fuel drag races. We're talking about regular cars. So, I mean, you have to put that into context.
But see, generally, that's also, you're looking at weight savings. A disc brake, a drag race disc brake, probably weighs about
Oh, that's another issue
2
too.
pounds, right? 3 pounds. They are lightened. There's not enough material there for you to even turn them. Once you wear that disc down, you just throw it in the trash. You go get a new one. They're lightweight. The drum, you can't really lighten them up. Have you ever seen anybody drill the drums? I've seen the drums drilled before.
I've done it.
Is it?
I haven't drilled them, but I've cut away like the outer rim.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Cut the fins off.
Cut the fins. Well, most of the Chryslers don't have fins, but they'll have like a water ring around the outside of them.
Okay.
And I've cut those
that
off.
pitches the water out. Okay. Yeah, my super stock. Did I tell you I was going to use aluminum drums on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to use them on, I think, on the front.
Let's see.
James, what was it? James McKinley says, "Man, I remember when Nitros hit the streets. Never seen so many blown engines in all my life."
2X, didn't you say you saw wooden drums? That was a thing back in the day with the stock eliminator guys and stuff. They were looking for any little edge, and there were cases of wooden drum brakes.
Oh, dude, the stuff you're talking about, 70s, early 80s. You want to know ridiculous crap people were doing in stock eliminator?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody got the great idea of shaving a stock volume pump down, right? Like literally where you run it on the ragged edge of low oil pressure at idle. So it's like, what, 3 pounds, 3 pounds or something ridiculous like that. Maybe it was 7 pounds, or no, it was 7 per 1,000 was the standard, right? Yeah. And they would take them down to where it was less than 7 to where it's like 5 or 4 at idle.
Well, with a flat top of motor at idle, you really don't need anything.
But and then when you wind it up, the pressure would come up because this pump was spinning fast, right? But I would hate to be the guy that built some crazy stock eliminator. Even back then, a stock eliminator motor probably cost $5,000, right? And then you're like, hey, I got a crazy idea. How about I shave the oil pump down? You know, like, ooh.
Pesados 666. I have drum brakes drilled out of my 71 Harley Sprint. Keeps them cool.
Wooden carb spacers. You know what?
That's a good idea.
You know what? That's something that you should probably do.
Make a wooden carb spacer?
Well, you should do an Uncle Tony's Garage video where you're like covered in sawdust and you're like, today we're going to talk about woodworking in the automotive community. And then, you know, like the super stock racers super stock and early pro stock, the Buick guys didn't have an intake manifold. So they'd take a Chrysler 383 tunnel ram and they would make wooden spacers and put it on a 455 Buick, right?
I believe it.
But there's a lot of places like that where people would not realize that wood could be used.
A wooden carb spacer would be extremely efficient at insulating.
It is. They've been around for years.
Hook, line, and Fishing says he's always made his own spacers. Wood spacers work. Yeah.
Kent Ward. Have any of you ever seen a 90s T-Bird chopped? Yeah, there was one. There was one that was. Oh, no, you have. I know you have, because you ran the circuit with IHRA, right? Running in fuel cars.
Yeah.
Back then, they had pro mods that were T-Birds, and a lot of them were chopped.
I don't recall ever seeing that. There were a lot of T-Birds at the time.
Yeah, there was always that was the big thing in the pro mod class because you could modify the body.
Okay.
And they were chopping those T-Birds to when the windshield's like real super short like this. And then it had the elongated front end. Animal Jim had one that was a Mercury or a Lincoln Mark 8 like that.
I'm not doubting you. I just never saw one.
That's where I had seen them, the 90s T-Birds. I was never a big fan of them because they got a lot wider, right? And they were really killer in NASCAR. But I always liked the ones like I had, like the 87 and 88. That was just my style T-Bird I really enjoyed.
Jamie N., thank you for the super chat. Hey guys, recently built a 72 454. Noticed a live valve train noise right away, then progressively got worse. Ended up sticking a valve. Cannot figure out what causes. Any ideas? Best channel. It stuck a valve?
Ooh, I don't know how I would even do that. On a Chevrolet? You know what? I
Recently
know what it
rebuilt
is.
my
I know what it
72
is.
before. Noticed a light valve train noise right away. Progressively got worse. Ended up sticking a valve.
Okay, I think I know what this is. I've done the same thing before,
Go ahead.
and what it was on the valve guide, right? At the very top of the guide, you normally do machine work and then you put a valve seal on there, right? Well, actually, you don't even do machine work. You just put the factory valve seal is already cut to fit on there. But when you do aftermarket cams and you add a spring that's larger, that spring actually gets larger in diameter of the wire, right? And I've seen where they catch the little metal rings on those valve seals and it slows the spring action of them coming back up because it'll be like a speed bump on that spring as it's hitting it, right? And next thing you know, you get a valve that gets tagged. But that's the only place I've seen them because I can't think in a valve train. That 72 454 probably wasn't a solid lift cam. It was probably a hydraulic flat tappet. So and the Chevrolet having an adjustable rocker arm, it's almost impossible to be tagging valves because they got reliefs in the pistons and everything.
Well, here's the question: he rebuilt the engine, but what condition were the heads? What was his name? Jamie, and so all right, you rebuilt the engine, right? But what condition were? How do you get rid of that now?
Just click on the background.
Oh, I just did that. Nothing happened.
I don't know.
Yeah. What condition were the heads in going in? Did you send them out to have new guides put in, or did you have the guides knurled or anything like that? Did you use the original valves back in? You're leaving stuff out of the equation.
Oh, you guys, Joseph Giannini says on his dad's drag cars, they didn't even run valve seals. And some guys don't. I always just ran a valve seal so it wouldn't smoke. And smoking is not really a problem when you're talking a drag car. No one's going to ever throw you out of the track for smoking too much, I don't think. As long as it's not blowing up.
Paul Sims, you and your brakes, you might as well just put 14-inch tires on all the cars. And I say this in jest, my friend. Paul, let me see. I have my 73 Roadrunner has 14s.
Does your Darts have 13s? Are they 13s?
No. Well, okay. My 66 Dart is 13s. There's 13s on the front of Plan Z. Wait, 14. What cars do I have with 14-inch tires? My Duster has 14s on slots. The Swinger has 14-inch rallies, A-body rallies.
What about the Sport?
My Roadrunner has 14-inch tires.
The GTS. Or
the
GT.
73 Roadrunner. The 68 has 15s. Which
really?
Which
the
GT's got 14s. Yeah, bro, I have a lot of cars with 14-inch rims.
I don't know where you can find tires these days.
Oh, you get them.
Can you?
Yeah. Well, the Ford Rangers used 14s up until
90s, probably.
Yeah.
Huh. Some guys say the positive valve seals will burn the guides out. Like a polylock? Isn't that what or what do they call posit lock?
The ones with that
wire
metal. That's possible.
I don't know how I'd do that. I guess it'd have to be squishing it pretty hard, huh?
I don't know. But okay. Jamie, and the heads were in decent condition. OEM valves, springs, machine shop put in new guides. Okay, well, there you go. Machine shop put in new guides. Well, that's the difference. They changed the guides. And so one of the guides might have been distorted during the course of putting it together or just too tight. Yeah, no, you go back to the machine shop. They you know what I mean? There's a problem there. It's in the guides.
Heads were in decent condition. I was told bad gas. Bad gas can't do tag a valve.
Well, the bad gas can.
How does bad gas tag a valve?
I have had this happen on intake valves, especially if you've got gasoline. If you've got the old gas, not new gas, right? If not the current gas, but if you've got any of the old gas, let's say you got a 10-year-old tank, 15-year-old tank of gas, right? Right. You know when it gets gummy, when it turns that brown varnish?
Oh yeah, when it varnishes up.
Okay, that will stick the guides.
Really?
Absolutely.
But he said he had a valve train noise that got worse and worse and worse, and then he tagged the valve.
Well, okay. Did it have a varnishy smell to it? Because if the gasoline had a varnishy smell, then yes, that could have absolutely stuck a valve. Because I've done that myself.
Really, I would never have believed that. So it hangs up on the valve on the stem. and
It
then
gathers
it
on
keeps
the
it
stem.
from
Yeah.
it keeps it from
Wait,
closing.
I'll go one step further than that, right? I'll go one step further
Uh-huh.
than that. I had a Belvedere, a 66, 67 Belvedere I picked up as a driver, right? And it had a full tank. So it was running on, okay, you know how bad gas can still burn? You can
Oh, yeah.
still drive it. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
This car had a full tank of bad gas. It had started to turn, but it was still enough to run the car. You could smell through the exhaust, you could smell the gas.
Right.
So after about 100 miles or so of driving it like that, it was almost to the point of ready to put new gas in it, it developed a miss. Couldn't get rid of this miss. It stuck the rings.
Really?
It stuck the rings in one of the cylinders. After everything was said and done, I couldn't get rid of the miss. It wasn't sticking any of the valves, but it was just, it had a dead miss. I forget which cylinder it was. I said, what the hell? So I pulled the heads off of it, and you could see a varnish trail
On the cylinder wall?
on the cylinder wall. And when I popped that piston out, the rings were stuck in the grooves by the varnish. And that was the last, like from that point on, because I was always very callous about that. Oh, it's got bad gas, I'll just burn it through.
Right, and then throw some other gas on top of it.
Right.
I've done that stuff.
We've all done that, but
Before.
that time it got me. And
I've done
from
it.
that
I've
point-
done it recently. I took gas that was like 35 years old out of a car, and then my Suburban has a 20-gallon tank, right, or a 40-gallon tank. So I dumped in 5 gallons of that crap gas in that 40-gallon tank, and so I had 35 other gallons of crap or of good gas, right? And I thought, oh well, that won't do anything. Maybe plug up the filter. I had no idea it would you could bend a valve.
Mr. Will, thank you for the super chat. Tone, quick shout out for my channel. The 69 Charger is coming out this weekend. Vids to come.
Oh well, congratulations!
Yes,
you finished her up.
You like 69 Chargers? That's the classic, right? And people like the 68s. They think the 68s are the one. I always thought the 69 was the shit.
Oh, I got it now. I got a message earlier, and I was trying to figure out what he was talking about. It just dawned on me. So Jeff from Two Hacks Garage. I don't even know if he's still in here. Oh, was he? There's Chris. Fab Race Mod Repeat says brown gas will definitely stick a valve.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I had always been very callous about it, and not with any type of performance car or anything like that, but just you pick up a beater. You know what I mean? You pick up a beater, and it's like, oh, geez, I got to drop this freaking tank and get all this getting out of hell with it. It runs. I'm just going to run it out again. And it was something I had just done. You know what I mean? It's like, because it's a car, it's a beater. You just don't care, right? Well, that time it got me in the ass, and from that point forward, I made sure that any brown gas is out of there. Good night, Ryder. Jose Jimenez, do you consider AMC a Mopar? I consider AMC. I consider Jeep Mopar, yeah, but not the earlier Jeeps. AMC was its own thing, man. AMC was a beautiful company. It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So Two Hacks said that Jeff from Two Hacks said that I saw earlier that he's got this crankshaft coming in, and like, I don't know what he's talking about. And then it dawned on me just now. I talked to him about the build I always wanted to do. Remember the Easy 302?
Yeah.
A Chevrolet 302. Well, he's going to do it on Two Hacks Garage. So it's going to be cool that he's going to make that one work out.
That's a good channel. Two Hacks Garage. There's so many good channels. There's so many guys. You should say something, or John is in here about the No Name 500 and all of these different channels.
Well, Two Hacks was one of our No Name 500. They were one of the first ones to finish, and so No Name 500. If you don't know what that is, that's for the No Name Nationals. It was the channels that literally started with less than 500 subs. So when we first started the No Name Nationals, we limited it to you had to have 500 subs before we'd allow you to participate in the No Name Nationals. The reason for that is that's where YouTube recognizes you as a content creator. Otherwise, we'd have everybody and their brother coming out of the woodwork trying to run this thing with one video on the web, and nobody'd even know who they are, right? So we wanted to make sure that you were a guaranteed content creator. So we what happened was we kind of created a race within the race for these guys to get to the no name nationals. So we ended up calling the No Name 500, and the folks over at Roadkill Customs swooped in and sponsored the class for these guys. So now there's going to be something pretty cool on the board for all these guys. And you definitely want to get your No Name 500 banner and hang it up in the background for your video. So,
and I've been when these guys have been doing the lives. John Wilburn's been doing the lives. I don't always catch them while they're happening, but I'll try to catch up on them later on. Just to stay abreast of what everybody's doing, and all of you guys who are participating in this and helping each other out, and I'm so impressed by the sense of community, and it's you guys have got a really good thing going, a really good thing going. Hank Hill, thank you for the super chat, Hank. Tony, I'm so pissed. New dimmer switch, circuit board, and voltage regulator, and the temp gauge still ain't working. About 1,400 in bills. What now? Hank Hill, what kind of car is this? What year? What model? And maybe we got somebody in here that can help guide you in the right direction. Ari just put up the link to 2 hacks.
Yeah, that's a great channel. Go check them out.
James McKinley, can the 361 crack block be fixed? Yes, it can. And we were going to, but it won't be until, I'm not going to touch it until after Sledgehammer is up together and running. So at least a month.
One of the greatest mods in the world, John Wilburn, who's modding on the channel here, sent me the newest updated No Name 500 leaderboard. As of today, it's been updated. So you got Torque Racing Productions at 472 subs. Bubba Ayers, 424 subs. Some of these channels are just fantastic. If you got the time to go out there and sub to these guys, and you won't be disappointed. Jerry Racing, 375. Big Mike's Hoopty Barn, which everybody loves Big Mike. If he got any more laid back, I think he'd be in a coma, right? Big Block 402, 355 subs. Boca, The Shop, 327s. Heavens Mopars, 312. Levi's Backyard Performance, which you saw him in here earlier, panhandling for some subs, 296. Dutch Guy's Garage, 284. Tall Garage, 251. JB's Little Shop, 244. Mostly Old Parts and Rust, 237. Ron's Recreations, 206. My Next Project, 205. And then Outfits Garage, which I love them guys. They're stock car racers building a Z28 Camaro they pulled literally out of the weeds in front of their shop.
Yes.
And it's made out of just leftover parts, right?
Nice.
And they're coming to this thing, and they're at 200. So there's quite a few other ones that, the further you go down, the more there is on the list. But I'll just stop there. I don't want to eat up all our time with it. But, yeah, if you got a few minutes, get over there and sub to a few of those.
Or when John Wilburn has a live, he's been running regular lives on his channel, right?
On Friday nights.
Yeah, definitely. Head over there Friday nights. What time?
He usually does them Friday nights, 8 East, or is it 8 Eastern, 7 Central? And
I think he does a live before hours on Sundays. We go on at 7 Central, and I think he's on at 6 Central. I don't know, but John, post a schedule for your lives. Broke Joker ATV. No, man, I'm not a diesel guy. I've never messed with diesels. I have nothing against them. They're not my thing. Let's see. Mopar Al's back in the house, I see.
He went away and then came back? He's probably been here the whole time, I'm assuming.
Mopar Al is everywhere. He's omnipresent.
Omnipotent?
No, he's
omnivore?
Yeah.
He's omnivore.
He's an omnivore.
Rude Morport dude says rarely seen AMCs out there out here on the East Coast. A sweet Hornet around sometimes. Man, I'll tell you what, where they were hot and heavy was in their home state.
Kenosha, Wisconsin.
There's a lot of AMC guys in the Midwest, guys and gals, I guess, racers, hot rodders in the Midwest. Wild Rose Garage just hit 500 subs. Oh,
did
sweet.
He?
Yeah.
Congratulations, Wild Rose Garage. Nice. Jason Fitch is saying Wilburn has even popped on when guys are close to their 500 mark.
Huh.
Yeah, very supportive, man. Yeah, you know that's the thing. If you're in this no name 500 race, or competition, or just collective, these guys are so supportive. Everybody's so supportive. You know what I mean? It's really impressive watching everybody just kind of like work together to build.
The whole idea was to build the automotive YouTube community as a whole, right? And I think it's worked really well. There's a lot of new channels out there with a lot of neat new different takes on the way to do things or things that nobody has ever done.
Fast thing. The thing is, are people just subbing to get 500 or they actually watch? Well, I mean, that's up to, I mean, every case is individual, I don't know.
Bad Tree Productions, did I like the Great River Road? I sure did. That thing was pretty awesome. I stayed with those guys at Bad Tree for one day, right? Would you believe this? In Iowa, there's like a place in Iowa that literally has mountains around it.
I can believe that.
It's where the original Pikes Peak hill climb started.
Okay.
And I drove right by it. I'm like, what in the? Because we were hanging out in the garage the whole night. I went back to this guy's place, crashed on his couch, woke up in the morning, walk out the front door. There's a freaking mountain in front of me. I'm in Iowa, and I'm like,
what part of Iowa is this?
John Denver's full of shit, man. But no, it was McGregor, Iowa. It's the eastern side of Iowa, all the way up north near Wisconsin.
Really?
Yeah, and it's because of the Mississippi River. Why there is, I'm sorry, I'm hitting the cord. Okay, yeah, why there's mountains there. He said the area that didn't get hit by the glaciers. Okay. But it's like mountains and valleys, big rolling hills, man. I was surprised.
Okay, 67 Satellite 318. This is with the temp gauge. Has new temp sending unit. I put a test light on the sensor. It gets constant voltage, but when I put it on gauge stem, it lightly pulses. All right. Well, okay.
I shouldn't have any voltage going to the temp
right
sensor.
Exactly. The temp sensor is a ground. It's a rheostat in there. It's a variable ground, so you shouldn't have any voltage at the sensor. What happens if you ground the sensor? If you ground the sensor out, does the gauge just go right to hot?
It should max out on hot, right?
Right. That's the first test I always do with any of those things. If you got a temperature gauge that's acting weird or whatever, just ground it. Take the wire off the sending unit, ground it out, and you should be able to watch the gauge go.
Yeah, all them old gauges work on resistance, right? Even your fuel sending unit gauge is essentially just a resistance, and all you need is an ohm meter and set it to resistance, right? Or multimeter and set it to ohms or resistance side, and you can check resistance coming off of those sensors.
Broke Joker, how often do you get the dirty look for Chevy guys when unleashing Mopar Hell Fury on them? In my current life, none, because I mean I don't go out, I don't race anyway. I'm not out there doing it. When I was younger, when I was in my teens, in my 20s, in my 30s, lots, lots of fury, But I mean, it's not, to me. All that stuff is really in the past. I don't do it anymore. I really don't intend on doing it. I do this channel based on experience and knowledge that I've had from the past. So, the 2-seater AMXs were beautiful. They absolutely were.
Oh yeah, those are my favorite cars from AMC. Well, I don't know. The Scrambler was cool too. Doug Narden says, wouldn't you have loved to have been on a fly on the wall during the Ram Chargers test and tuning the 727 5K RPM launches? Just push the drive button.
Yep.
Wow.
That's all they did. They didn't have aftermarket torque converter. They didn't have high stall beyond what the factory high stall converters were until about 1969. B&M was the first one to bring out the aftermarket high stall converter. And they were like a 3,000 RPM unit. They used to call it the fourth gear, because at the time everybody was running a 3-speed automatic, and the B&M torque converter was called the fourth gear.
So Jason Fitch says something here. Are you sure your temp sensor isn't intended for an idiot light? On most cars, you have two different types of sensors. If you got one with a sweeping gauge, they'll generally look different than the one with just the idiot light. The idiot light is what it's got like a wax bead inside that breaks down at a certain temperature, and then it causes a dead short, right?
Right.
And then it lights the light.
So that Belvedere should, or the 67B body should definitely have a gauge. But yeah, if he's exactly right. If it's one for an idiot light, it's going to work the exact opposite.
Broke Joker ATV, have you ever been to New England Dragway? I'd love to watch you make some passes. New England Dragway?
I will probably never see New England Dragway again. We raced there many times back in the Nitro days. With everything, with funny cars, with top fuelers, with fuel altereds. Ron Champagne, who what a piece of work he was. Ron Champagne was the manager back then, and he used to book us in all the time.
Yeah, one for the road saying idiot lights are what people refer to as snap switches. There's no variable to it, right? I think it just at a certain temperature that wax bead breaks down and you get a dead short. I think that's how it works. I can't remember. I think that's the way it works, though, where it's some kind of, it might be solder or something that breaks down. I don't remember. It's something like that. When it gets to a certain temp, it just breaks down.
Good night, Doug Norden. Good night, The Wrench.
Man, we've been going for 2 hours and 5 minutes.
Oh,
this was the longest, the shortest, longest night ever.
This one flew.
You owe me 5 minutes of overtime, man. I mean, how can we settle this up?
I mean, we can go a little bit longer, or we could just start wrapping it up right now.
Okay, we can wrap it up.
Okay, Fast Stang is saying it's time to leave now, and I'm going to go with Fast Stang. All right, geez, where do we even go? Do you have anything to AHRA?
AHRA, thanks for supporting us. There's been a lot of people buy merchandise almost every weekly. Well, almost every week somebody buys some.
Buy some AHRA merch.
Yeah, well, that's how we keep the lights on in this. No, not in this room, but that's Tony making videos for you. But that's how we put on events like No Name Nationals, or the one we got coming up in Iowa, which is Shootout at Sundown.
Oh.
And then we got the
sounds romantic.
I know.
Yeah,
that's what I was shooting for.
Yeah.
And then we got the Inliner National Challenge coming at Katy Dragway this year. So
Joe K. Thank you, Joe K. Thank you to all of our mods. Harry, Charm, Fubar, Zero. The greatest automotive community on YouTube. And you guys are the greatest automotive community on YouTube. And it's like an extended family now, because you got everything's happening with the no-name guys and everything. It's all part of the same community. You guys are awesome, and I'm proud to be amongst you. And I do mean that sincerely. I really do. I respect anybody who gives it. YouTube is tough. YouTube is a tough bitch. It really is. And for you to actually go out and try to make videos, you're putting yourself out there, man. You're going where most people would never think to go. So, whether you have one subscriber or you have 500 or 100,000 or 1 million, it doesn't make any difference to me. You're putting yourself out there. You got the stones to say, here I am, man, take it or leave it. Right. So every single one of you has my complete and total respect. And
Ari's asking me, do I still have trucker hats? And I feel horrible, right? Like, I'm thinking he means this one, this trucker hat, like this. Okay, that I made, I don't know, 30 or 40 of them in 2021, at the very beginning of the season, and they sold out like at our second race. They were like flying right out. My wife couldn't keep up with them, so I went back to order more. And guess what? You can't get any. They're on back order for a year.
All right. Well, you want Don English is saying when he is right, time to sing, Dallas. So you got
the credits are rolling.
Yeah, you're gonna sing us out.
No, it's the happy birthday song,
yeah,
right? Yeah. Happy birthday to you. Everybody loves you. So happy birthday to you. We're out of here.
Good night, all.
See you later.